let's see, Member Meyerson?
Here.
And then do we know if folks online, are you able to hear us? Dr. Clay, Dr. Hagerman, Member
That
Catney?
just worked.
Okay,
We're back on.
so we're doing roll call. So Dr. Clay,
Here.
Dr. Hagerman,
Here.
Member Catney's,
Here.
Dr. Core, you have a quorum.
Press talk, press mute. I will catch that probably sometime in the fall, but I'm going to work on it. No president's report other than to comment on our beautiful new boardroom setting and the appreciation for all those who work so hard to get us located in here. So looking forward to this, using this amazing facility. So with that, superintendent report, Superintendent Horn, your report, please.
Thank you. This morning, I'm going to be giving obelisks to 3 Milken Award winners. I used to give them like 20 years ago when my first term as superintendent, and the Milken representative that joins me to give the awards at the schools is still the same person after all these years. And it's interesting how it works. You can't apply for a Milken, you can't nominate anyone. They choose people themselves. They're choosing people in early to mid-level education who have shown outstanding results as a way of recognizing the future results that we hope to get from them. And they call an assembly and nobody knows what it's about. And then they say that it's an award. Nobody knows who the award winner is in the school or any place else. It's a Milken secret. And then they talk about how we need to recognize our teachers the way we recognize movie stars and other people who get famous awards. And then they have students hold up a placard with a number on it. So they say, should we give the award winner $25? And the student holds up a placard that says $25, and the student thinks that's nice. And then another student stands up and holds up another zero. So you say, should we give $250? Then the kids think that's pretty neat. And then you said they have another kid hold up another zero. Should we give $2,500? And then the kids are really applauding. And then they have me stand up with the final zero. They give $25,000. So it's a big deal. And these people richly deserve awards, along with other, great teachers, like member of the board, Catney's is well-known, outstanding teacher. So I'm going to come down and give each of them an obelisk and tell you a little bit about each one. I'm going to start with Megan Brown, because I was there to give her award to her at the school. And that's a wonderful memory. And I'll tell you a little bit about her, and then she'll come up and we'll present to her and we'll do a picture. Principal Megan Brown leads her Buckeye Elementary School team with one key mantra: educate all students. Brown creates a school culture that celebrates all growth and exudes joy and passion for both student and teacher learning. Brown took the helm in January 2021, so that's a year and a half, 2 years ago, amid continued pandemic disruptions, determined to improve student performance. This is key. Determined to improve student performance, she implemented phonics, small group instruction, and a Tier 1 literacy support plan, adding dedicated staff to engage in conversations about needed interventions for every student. Brown secured federal school improvement grants to fund interventions and supported teachers consistently and effectively, has added new programs and strategies to improve student learning outcomes. With Brown's guidance, Buckeye Elementary improved, now get this, from an F rating in 2018-19 to a B in 2021. And the other great statistic that she brought is she has a 90% retention rate of teachers. And this is something I'm hearing is when teachers feel like they're making academic progress, the students are performing, they don't want to leave. And so we have great retention rate in places where we have great achievement. So, so Megan, if you'll come around here, because we want to take a picture.
I am.
Melissa Martin, Principal, Chinley Junior High. Principal Melissa Martin is dedicated to enhancing opportunities for students in Chinley. Martin has fostered promising improvement in school culture through communication, a focus on student learning, and responsive actions to meet family and staff needs at Chinley Junior High School. The genuine interest Martin demonstrates towards students and staff results in positive relationships that serve as a strong foundation for collaborative practice and notable student outcomes. Before moving to the junior high, Martin was an academic coach at Chinley Elementary School, where she visited classrooms to support teachers, testing new instructional practices with students before rolling them out to staff. She planned and led weekly job-embedded professional development, especially for teachers in pre-K through second grade. As a member of the Navajo community and a graduate of Chinley High School, Martin is a powerful role model for Chinley's youth as they look to their futures beyond high school. And I want to say how much I appreciate what she's done, because we're in the process of changing our approach to Native American education. As bad as our statewide testing averages right now, among Native Americans, it's 5% proficiency rate. And that means the students who are not proficient don't have any future. And so we're shifting a lot of what has been done in the past to a big push on academics. So I'm especially appreciative of what Melissa is doing. Melissa, if you would come. And finally, Jessica Zimmerman, K-8 instructional coach and gifted coordinator in the Roosevelt Elementary School, which is a really good place to be adding value. Jessica Zimmerman serves as her district's gifted coordinator. Gifted has always been one of my highest priorities, along with being the full-time instructional coach at Valley View Leadership Academy in Phoenix. Ms. Zimmerman helps teacher colleagues increase student engagement, incorporate technology into their classrooms, and think outside the box to support their students. She has taught kindergarten, second, and third grades. She transitioned into a resource gifted teacher role in Roseville School District's gifted program, teaching 150 students weekly in grades K-8. Her focus on gifted students is a commitment to ensure that they receive a high-quality education and are supported holistically. She also serves as a board member for the Arizona Association for Gifted and Talented. In 2021, get this, Zimmerman worked site leadership to bring her school, this is 1 year, from a D to, 3 years, D to a B school in just 3 years. In 2021, Jessica Zimmerman was recognized as one of the Great 48 in Phoenix Magazine. And because Gifted is high on her priority list and on mine, I told her, just let me know what you want me to do and I'll do whatever you say.
Wow.
The only other thing that's part of my report is two minor clarifications with respect to ESAs. One is that the ESAs, one of our problems is the legislation says you can benefit from an ESA or you can benefit from a tuition scholarship, but you can't benefit from both. But the ESAs, so the question is, does somebody know that how much money they would get from a scholarship before they have to choose? And they don't have to make the decision until September 30, by which time they would know that. And the second thing is, even though we're on a yearly schedule rather than the old quarterly schedule, if a student is designated as special ed during the year, that's a special case because the amount of money that would come from the ESA might be a lot more than the $7,000, depending on the type of disability. So we're going to allow them to change if that happens. But in order to be consistent with the legislation, they would have to give back anything they got from the tuition scholarship. So that would be a trade-off that they would decide themselves, but at least that way they have the choice. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Next, Executive Director report. Do you have a report, Executive Director Ross?
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, I wanted to actually echo you, Dr. Kaur, in thanking board staff for all of the tremendous work to put the boardroom together. Sandy, Melissa, everyone, it's been a group effort, but it's so nice to be in here today. I think this is the first time in 2 years between the pandemic and construction. So thanks to the team for all of their hard work. And then, as you know, in this part of the meeting, I always like to spotlight a staff member. In this case, it's Jessica Mueller, our research analyst. Many of you know Jessica well, have worked with Jessica for years. She's been a part of the board for many years, and is really honestly the smartest person in any room she walks into. She is brilliant and is an unbelievable help to us. Has the very rare ability to have those higher level math and data analysis skills and the ability to translate them for, let's say, executive directors who are less savvy. And so we have, unbelievable appreciation for all that Jessica does for our team. And she's just an amazing addition to board staff. And I know her work has benefited the board for years and will continue to. So I just wanted to give a thank you to Jessica.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you again so very much. Going to move us on to the call to the public. We'll have a number of call to the publics, but this is the time for the public to comment on items not on today's agenda or on the consent portion of the agenda. We've got a number of folks signed up to speak at various times today, so I will limit speakers to 2 minutes, please. And Director Ross, have we received any requests to speak during this call to the public?
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, we have up first, we have Jim Bannon, followed by Lynn Fox Embry, and then Vila Aguirre.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good morning. I learned at 8:15 that my time was cut from 3 minutes to 2, so here we go. The purpose of these comments is to recommend facilitating and scheduling a future 1-hour Zoom meeting between me, Dr. N. Kalaris, thank you, Superintendent Tom Horn, and others he chooses to invite. Imagine a world where Arizona education is revolutionized, inspiring students and equipping them with the skills they need to thrive. Our recommended curriculum, Transforming Arizona Education, a Curriculum for Success, aims to do just that. Addressing major issues in our school system, drawing lessons from leading countries, and focusing on the attributes of inspirational teachers, this proposed curriculum offers a comprehensive approach to Arizona education. Let's dive into the key components that make our curriculum recommendation a game changer. We begin with a critical analysis of Arizona USA school system, debunking the notion that it is the best. Through historical perspectives and insights into the U.S. Constitution's stance on education, we next discuss our crucial issues affecting education, standardized testing, the cost of education, teacher qualifications, the role of technology in the classroom, and more. By examining these topics, we shed light on the shortcomings of our current system and propose innovative solutions for Arizona. Drawing inspiration from the successful education systems worldwide, we focus on the Finnish educational phenomenon, their world-leading approach to early learning, teacher autonomy, and community involvement. Finally, we provide 17 preliminary suggestions for transforming Arizona education system to make us #1 in the USA. These suggestions aim to foster student engagement and enhance learning outcomes. We also present a 20-year plan segmented into 4 stages, outlining tasks for Arizona government entities, schools, and teachers. Conclusion: this is not a theoretical framework. It provides practical recommendations and actionable steps to create a thriving Arizona education system. Together, let's embark on the journey to transform education and shape a brighter future for Arizonians for generations to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bannon, just as a reminder, the call of the public is not appropriate for vendors or to propose business with the state. So although your comments are appreciated, I would ask that you refrain from doing that in future meetings.
President Corr, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Up next, we have Lynn Fox Embry, followed by Valia Aguirre and Rebecca Cross.
Quick learner, push the right button. Good morning. I'm Lynn Fox Embry. As most of you know, I'm an ESA parent, and I'm proud to say that I've been doing public education, private school education for years. My oldest child is 41. My youngest turned 8 years old today. So just so you know, I am a huge supporter of school choice, but I'm also a parent who has very many concerns with ESA programs still today. I would like to ask the board to keep ESA on your burner and make sure we don't just come here for 3 months a year and talk about the handbook. One of my biggest concerns to address today is, well, I have 2, but the first one is universal. The universal law came into effect for children that do not fall under the regular categories. When a parent goes to enroll right now in the universal, you don't have the choice of the original categories. I am very concerned that we are not following statute. Mr. Horn says on a regular basis, we're following the law, we're following the law. Well, it's not following the statute if a parent does not get to choose awarded the court, or a child who's been to public school that has an IEP and falls under that category, or a military family. Universal is a separate program for those who don't qualify under the original 7 or whatever it is. So that is one of my biggest concerns. I think we need to find a way to fix the problems from the last administration when they just put everybody under one category. But also we need to fix the current issue that we don't have a choice when we sign our children up on the ESA. So I think that's one of my concerns. My other concern is, you all know, debit cards. You know, debit cards is going to be an issue with the new RFP, I'm sure. So we need to be prepared to come up with a solution to debit cards. I know Mr. Horn and Mrs. Corso is concerned about the process of approving them. My suggestion to you as the parent is go back to the B of A way. If you want a debit card, you sign that piece of paper saying, I'm going to accept this debit card, with the understanding that I have to submit my reports in prior to the next quarter funding. If they're not approved, then you don't get your next quarter funding. That holds the parents accountable that want those cards. And it helps, I think, to the state. They have this major backlog they're dealing with, but I think that will help facilitate giving parents what they need for their children. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, and I look forward to seeing you again next month.
Thank you.
Dr. Corr, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Up next is Valia Aguirre, followed by Rebecca Cross, and then Angela Faber.
Executive Director Ross, we do not have Valia Aguirre or Rebecca Cross with us virtually. Angela Faber is available.
Thank you, Jessica.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I would like to address Superintendent Horn directly. Please stop accusing the program and parents of fraudulent purchases. There has been no proof or receipts ever shown to document this. If there was fraudulent purchases, what do you do about them? Did you suspend them? Did you ask for repayment? Did they get removed from the program? There's steps to follow in procedures regarding fraudulent purchases. Please stop using my child as a pawn to remove the debit card option. Now I would like to address the board. We come to you every single month and plead for help, and you sit there and listen, but we need more than listening. We need action. Waiting weeks for approval of items, waiting weeks for payments to pay our teachers, waiting weeks for reimbursements is unacceptable. I am so thankful that I have the debit card because my ASD student can get the educational items that she needs in a timely manner. I'm able to pay her teacher that works 5 days a week with her for several hours a day for the past 2 years in a matter of minutes using the debit card. I am not asking for help for me. I'm not asking for help for any other parent. I'm asking for help for our SPED students. The students that this program was initially intended for. Our SPED kids are drowning right now. Please, please, please throw them a life jacket and help them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Up next, we have Andrea M., followed by Bryson M., and then Sarah Blank.
Can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I would like to bring attention to something that I believe Dr. Hagerman was speaking with Ms. Accurso last meeting. And that is the fact of the law that has to do with evaluations. The law currently that has to do with evaluations is ARS 15-2403J. And when Ms. Accurso was speaking with, I believe it was Dr. Hagerman about this matter, he had a look of confusion on his face when she stated that a 2-page eval was turned in, and then that student, the parent, received a new contract with higher funding. I think if you all would look at that law, you would understand that Ms. Accurso and the department are interpreting this law inappropriately. And it is possibly one of the things that the Attorney General is looking into. It is not appropriate the way that they are reissuing contracts and offering higher funding levels under just their interpretation of the law. It is throwing away money from our state budget, and it is going to bankrupt the state. And in reference to what the previous speakers spoke of, ARS 15-2401.01, it's very concerning to me that there are no abilities for traditional ESA students, people who do not otherwise qualify for an Arizona ESA scholarship account pursuant to this chapter, can apply. If you go into the application, you cannot apply as a student with enrollment or military. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
My son is not available today. Thank you.
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Up next, we have Sarah Blank, followed by Harmony Lurley, and then Julie Smith.
Executive Director Ross, we do not have Sarah Blank with us virtually. However, Harmony Lurley is available.
Thanks, Jessica.
Good
Go ahead,
morning.
Harmony. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Esteemed members of the board and Superintendent Horn, I am disheartened by the fact that as we enter our 5th month with Director Accurso, the program continues to be in crisis. Vendor payments of approved vendors are taking 4 to 6 weeks. Everyone is being pushed to use the call center, but answers given by staff are notoriously incorrect and basically useless as they're not in writing. Class wallet orders are taking 4 to 6 weeks and are often canceled. The outcry for all parents to have equal access to their funds through debit cards go unheeded, while other families, like mine, are inexplicably given debit cards for their children, even during the debit card pause. Families have some kids with cards and others without, creating vast disparity in children's educational opportunities within the same family. Mrs. Accurso refuses to follow rules and honor contracts because it's too much work. Now there are talks of lawsuits from parents who know that government programs cannot legally be administered one way to some members and another to others. Mrs. Accurso is creating legal liabilities for the ADA. Debit cards must be provided to all immediately, and the new financial management company must guarantee debit card options. This program will not function without them. Families without debit cards are forced to go through Class Wallet to pay vendors. On April 28th, Mrs. Accurso froze 910 Class Wallet vendors' accounts, throwing children into chaos and unnecessarily disrupting their education and therapies. And the students who will suffer most are sped. Mrs. Accurso does not think through the implications of her decisions. We are very weary of our dire concerns for the program being ignored or made worse. Mrs. Accurso must start to take feedback and advice from parents and this board, or the program will continue to deteriorate at a time when the whole nation is looking at us to show its success. Thank you.
Thank you, Harmony.
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. For the record, we want to note that Member Krivickas has joined the meeting. And then up next, we have Julie Smith and Jay Griffin.
Executive Director Ross, Julie Smith and Jay Griffin have not joined the meeting virtually.
Dr. Kaur, that would conclude this call to the public.
All right. Thank you very much. And Jessica, no one we missed earlier in the list has circled back, right?
No, they have not, President Kaur.
Okay, fantastic. Then we will in fact move on to the consent agenda. I will note that Dr. Robbins has not joined us just yet, but had planned on recusing himself from D&J, which involved the University of Arizona. And at this point, I would ask, is there any other item that any member of the board would like removed from the consent agenda for discussion?
I don't have an item to remove from the agenda, but I do have a comment. So at the appropriate time.
Fantastic. No one is looking to remove an item? No? Okay. Then do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
That was super close, but I'm going to give it to Member Clark by a nose. And and Member Katniss, are you okay with a second?
I will give you a second.
Thank you very much. Member Haley, comments?
Yes, thank you so much. Often at many of these meetings, we get to approve educator prep programs. I just like to note it's exciting to see Scottsdale Community College, I think, is one of our local community college institutions that is going to be able to provide local support to helping to prepare educators. Often at these meetings, I bring up comments about wanting to better understand how our educator prep programs are preparing our teachers for the long term. And under rule, actually, it's mentioned 3 different times, but under Rule 7-2-604, and then the subsequent different programs, both our traditional alternative and our Grow Your Own, we are supposed to get a biannual report, or institutions are supposed to report to ADE with a biannual report that just gives just relevant data on the educator preparation programs, relevant staff candidates, as well as stakeholder surveys, completer data, and student achievement information based on the program that they provide. So I guess my request to ADE and probably to Bruce DePlanty is it would be fantastic if we could get a summary of those reports. I do believe that under section L, the department shall provide annual updates to the board and make publicly available information summarizing the biennial reports to include but not limit program status, deficiencies, and commendations. But it'd be really great to have that other data that they are reporting to you beyond the meets, does not meet, et cetera, that we get for the different programs.
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, Vice President Haley, members of the board. We do have Bruce DePlanty with us from the Arizona Department of Education, and I believe a former Milken Award winner himself.
My old band director days. President Core, Superintendent Horn, Member Haley, and the board. To the best of my knowledge, since I've been at the agency, the biennials have not been reported annually to the board. And the rule has changed throughout time. However, over the last year, we've worked to put infrastructure in place to collect those reports, make sure that all ed prep programs understand the reporting schedule. And then we're hoping to hit a cadence of reporting to you starting with this fall. I think our intention is to have like a cutoff of October and anything received from October to October to summarize that in a meaningful way for you and provide that and do a report to the board and get some feedback with that. And I think our intention is to also look at the Title II reporting data that they're already required to do, as well as look at how they impact Arizona specifically, because Title II reporting is a lot about how many completers have you produced, but we're tracking folks that complete, get Arizona certification, and then show up in Arizona schools and where they show up in Arizona schools. And so that's what we're hoping to provide to you this fall.
I think that would be fantastic. I'd also be interested when you get the biannual information from our educator prep programs, perhaps having an executive summary of just sort of what those programs are doing and how they're providing. And if it helps putting it in a spreadsheet where we can kind of look across the cross tabs, that might be really fantastic too. I think it would help give us as a board a general framework of what we're approving and how they are actually benefiting our Arizona students.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other members with comments or please, Member Kervikas.
Thank you. Good morning. Prompted me to think of something, and Bruce may know the answer. So if you don't know if you want to go too far, but do we at all in any way collect survey data from the districts, like on their perceptions of the teachers? Because, they're the employers, right? They're the ultimate employers. I should say all LEAs, not just districts. Because I think that would be really valuable on their perceptions of incoming teachers and what their strengths and weaknesses are.
President Core, Superintendent Horn, board members, Member Kervikas. That is, we don't as the agency. However, there are completer surveys and some surveying required by board rule of the ed prep programs. So we could have that conversation with the ed prep. I know in discussions with them, they struggle to keep track of their completers. Once they graduate, they may know where their first job is. And then as they move, they struggle to keep track of those folks. So what we've been working on over the last couple of years is putting data sharing agreements in place with them so they can find out where they're at. But I can certainly loop back at the next ed prep quarterly meeting, which will be in June, and have this conversation that we've had this conversation, and that would be a request by the board.
Thank you. As you know, both nationally and at home, there's always lots of discussion about what our teachers, our graduates should know and be able to do. And I think the perspective of the people hiring them would be super valuable. So not just of the ed prep programs, but what are the LEAs saying the prep programs need to be doing better?
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Very good. Having a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No. Then all in favor, please. A reminder to folks on video. Okay, you're already on camera. Thank you so much. And unmuted. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. The consent agenda is approved as presented. Move us on to the second call of the public. Item 4, this is the time for the public to comment on items on today's general session. All speakers will be once again limited to 2 minutes. Director Ross, have we received any requests to speak?
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, we do not have any speakers at this time.
Thank you. Then I will in fact move us on to the general session with item 5. This is the presentation, discussion, and possible action to approve appropriated funds awarded for the school safety program. It is my understanding, Dr. Hagerman, that you will look to recuse yourself when we do come to a vote for this
That's
item,
That's correct.
as
My
you will
district's
be
on the
a potential recipient. Is that right? Okay, thank
Yep.
you so much. Then Director Ross.
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. With us today, we have Sid Bailey, the Associate Superintendent from the Arizona Department of Education, to present on the School Safety Grant Awards.
President Kaur, Superintendent Horn, board members, sadly, and for the record, I'm not a Milken Award winner. And perhaps the only one up here today that hasn't been, but I am here to provide the recommendation for the School Safety Program Award and Training Program, and to give you a little bit of background on what's happened. First of all, the award process, as you know, prioritized SROs in the new legislation, said first distribute the increase to schools on the school safety program waiting list for SROs. Also, we have prioritized current grantees in order to maintain positions already working under the original $30 million grant. So we'll recommend funding that ultimately you'll see funds social workers and counselors almost 2-to-1 over SROs. And as I go through this and give you a little bit of background and history, the scoring criteria for school counselors and social workers is one that was approved in October, I believe, last October, I believe. And we are following the same criteria with regard to counselors and social workers. And you can see that on the list. Rural school designations receive a point, as do schools that are in school improvement. And you can see the rest of the criteria that we use. The applications and awards for SROs and junior parole officers, you can see that in the original, from the original 30 million grant, there were 190 applications and 190 funded. In this current 50 million application process, there's been 111 applications submitted, and we are prepared to fund 111 of them. One might ask why there's fewer when there's more money in this iteration. And it comes down to carryover funding that accumulates over the years. And also there's been some ESSER funds that were attached to the original proposal. You can see the cost for the awards, the anticipated cost for the awards. And a total funding then of over 300 SROs have been requested in our schools, and we are prepared to honor that based on your decision today. Applications and awards for counselors and social workers. Again, you can see the original applications, there were 565, and we funded 456. And all of first position requests were funded. The ones that were not funded had to do with additional requests that were made. And you can see that this year, under the new $50 million grant, we had 292 requests, 110 were funded. That leaves 182 on the waiting list. And the reason for that is we simply are out of funds. We've exhausted our resources, at least up till this point. The applications and award totals then, as you can see, 566 counselors and social workers we recommend to be funded, over 301 SROs, and 2 parole officers. So as I said earlier, almost twice as many counselors and social workers are being funded. But there will be carryover available funds. Additional funds will be made based on the actual carryover on October, 1st of October, and then any amount remaining from award positions that we're not able to fill will then be redistributed after December 31st would be our plan. The training plan that we are putting together and really are still in the process of doing so. But the annual training plan requirements, you can see the bones for that. All program funded positions, LEAs, school administrators, and SRO sergeants will be part of a training program. New participant training. You can see the roles and responsibilities will be part of that training. School safety team and the use of data to drive the program will be part of that training. Arizona statute relevant to school safety will again be included in child and adolescent development, mental health issues. So we anticipate 2,500 training participants in this upcoming year. And I will note that in-person options for new participants, in-person will be a requirement for new participants now. And there's virtual options for people that have been in the program, depending on where they are in the process. Training plans for counselors, as you can see, there'll be new position, 2-day training for new positions, and you can see what that entails. And there'll also be elective workshops in subsequent years for all those that are successfully granted positions through the grant. The training for the SROs will include 4-day in-person training as well. So we'll have the original day of training that I just alluded to, and then an additional 4 days of training and again, we're still flushing that out. We've got on our staff as one of our co-deputies, Mike Kurtenbach, who has a lot of experience working in SRO programs in the past, and he's in the process of flushing that out. But essentially, there'll be a roles for officers, law-related education, adolescence development, student with disabilities, special education overview. All that will be included in that training. And then there'll be an annual law-related education course in subsequent years that will also be part of that work. There were a couple of questions I'd like to respond to that I received during the last week and after we had already posted for this meeting, and that was the rationale on why we have denied some applications. I hope I covered that. We just simply don't have the funds at this point. That doesn't mean some of those won't be covered, but since I'm not a prophet, it's hard for me to predict how many of those requests will be able to successfully be taken care of. I was asked about breakdowns of the awards to tribal school systems, rural, suburban, and urban schools. And we've done a quick look at that overall. If we look at all of the awards that we're recommending, they're tribal schools that are, the definition being those that are within districts located on tribal lands, not BA schools. There's 16 in total. Rural, minus those 16, would be another 120 successful applications. Suburban, 179 would be successful. Urban would be 554 for a grand total of 869 positions. The applications, we took a quick look at applications that we were not able to fund to just kind of see what that looked like. And remarkably, it appears at a quick look that the applications that were not funded have similar distributions to those numbers that I just gave you. And I'll open it up for questions at this point.
Thank you very much, Sid. Do we have any questions or comments? Yeah, please, Member Kravickas.
I said, thank
Hi.
you. Thank you for the great detail on the training. So will the training be done by ADE?
President Core, Superintendent Horn, and all board members, the training will be done in part by ADE and in part by groups that we have contracted with in the past and are continuing in relationship with.
Great, thank you. And then, so is this all new? Or is this next, I was a lot clear of what training used to occur versus what is new.
President Core, Superintendent Horn, board members, it's hard for me to speak to what's happened in the past. I know we're going to make some changes now that we've brought Mike on board as part of the team. I know he's working closely with organizations that we've used in the past to make sure everything it lines up. He brings a wealth of information and knowledge to the team. And so we've got some plans that there's no doubt in my mind there'll be some changes to the program, but we're excited about the possibility. And obviously we know that these people have to receive best training we can provide. Just in addition to that, just so you know, we're also running a pilot program, a small pilot program that we've got. Will do extensive active shooter training. And we have some people that have reached out and said, boy, we would like that additional training. And so in conjunction and in partnership with the Glendale Police Department, we're going to be providing that training session as well. So we're anxious to see how that goes and what the results are and study that a little bit.
Thank you very much. And thank you for making sure that the students with disabilities piece was there. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Superintendent Horn, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I can tell you about one part that's new, and that is we have concern that if an emergency does occur, that the police officer is present is very well prepared to take care of it. And there's been some concern that ordinary police training isn't enough because you have a very, very high stress situation. You have to stay cool. You have to be sure you shoot the right person and nobody else. And so we're implementing a very intensive program of additional police training to be sure that everyone who's in a school is very well prepared to handle an emergency if it should occur.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions or comments? All right. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the award of the new cohort of the school safety program applicants for 2023? Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
I'm going to go Dr. Clay, and you okay with the second on that, Member Haley?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic.
Second.
And any additional comment or discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. And it is noted that Dr. Hagerman has abstained from this vote. So motion passes as presented. Going to move us on to 5B, which is the presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding the AZ High School Equivalency Plus Career Readiness Pathway. Director Ross.
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. With us today to present on this is Beverly Wilson and Colette Chapman from the Arizona Department of Education. Oh, and Christian from the Arizona Department of Education.
Thank you, Executive Director Ross. Good morning, Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, and board members. We're excited to present this additional high school equivalency plus pathway to the Arizona board. Oh, next slide. I'm sorry. So just some background on the high school equivalency system that's administered by the Department of Education, Adult Education Services. It was established by ARS 15-702. Until July of 2018, the only pathway available to Arizona residents to earn a high school equivalency diploma was by passing the GED tests. And there were 4 tests. There are now: reasoning through language arts, mathematical reasoning, science, and social studies. And so 15701.01 also requires that any candidate for a high school equivalency diploma also pass the Arizona civics test, just like a high school graduate. So there are actually 5 assessments. Going back a little bit to previous board members, in 2016, the State Board of Education actually directed our unit to find alternate pathways to the high school equivalency diploma other than the GED assessment. And so after that, in June of 2016, we put together a high school equivalency task force that was comprised of educators, people from the public, adult educators around the state. And they recommended some alternative approaches to the high school equivalency diploma in addition to the GED testing pathway. So in July of 2018, we implemented the first of their recommendations, and that was the Arizona HSE College Credit Pathway. And then we have been working for the last couple of years on a pilot for the high school equivalency plus career readiness pathway. And we are presenting that to you today. So the background just for the college credit pathway, for those of you that may not be familiar with that, it was approved by the board in 2017 at the end of the year. It requires 25 college credits at the 100 level with a passing grade of a C or higher. Those transcripts are submitted to our office and reviewed. And these are the subject areas that are required as part of that credit pathway. So it's a combination of rigorous coursework in English language arts, math, natural science, social and behavioral sciences, computer, and then college and career exploration. So this particular pathway we're introducing you today, as I said, is the Plus Career Readiness Pathway. The eligibility is that the candidates for this pathway actually have to be enrolled in one of our state authorized WIA Title II adult education programs. This is different from the other 2 pathways. For the college credit pathway, that can be any Arizona resident that wants to submit their transcripts for review to be granted a high school equivalency diploma. And the GED testing pathway, it's anyone that can go into, that makes an appointment, goes in to take the GED test and passes those. So this one is more specific to a population of students that are enrolled in our adult education programs. It's very rigorous. There's a combination of academic proficiency in language arts, math, science, and social studies. And the equivalency was approved. It's similar to the high school equivalency diploma that we've already just talked about. It can also require passing scores on the GED test. It's a combination. Some students may not have passed all of the tests, or they passed them a long time ago and they want to go ahead and increase their chances of getting high school equivalency with the academic proficiency as well. And then the readiness is the 22-point system. So academics is 14 points of that. And then the career part, which is really important for adult education students, because all those students in our program are actually measured by their measurable skill gains and their ability to transition to post-secondary or a career pathway. We're actually measured at the federal level on their success to do that. And so the career part of it is 8 points. Okay, we'll kick it over a little bit. That's all right. And then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Christian Garibay. He's the Director of Assessment in HSE Services.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President, Superintendent, board members of the board. As Ms. Wilson just explained, this pathway has 2 main components: the academic readiness, which is the big chunk of the number of points that the candidates must earn, and the career readiness side. I use my hands a lot, so I'm probably going to be hitting the microphone. one of the things that we wanted to ensure with this pathway is that the students actually show proficiency in the core content areas for high school graduation, which is English language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies, while at the same time, they increase their skills to join the workforce. In the academic readiness side, those 14 points are distributed in a similar way as you would find in the high school graduation requirements: 4 points in English language arts, 4 points in math, 3 points in science, and 3 points in social studies. And they do this by using a combination of different sources, if you will, from a menu of options. They can use full year high school credits. They can use GED passing scores. They can use college courses, whether it's at the 100 level or above, or DEVET courses, or by enrolling in adult education classes. They have to meet a specific number of attendance hours that they're receiving instruction, while at the same time they need to be placed at least at the 9th grade level in the approved tests that we use in the adult education system. Or they can use, or complete one of the approved online courses for adults that we have in the system. Next slide, please. In the career readiness side, they have to earn 8 points. And again, similar to the academic readiness side, they have a variety of options. One of them, it's the integrated education and training courses that are offered through the adult education provider, in which they can earn an industry recognized credential at the end of these courses. They can also use college credits. They can use career readiness credentials. In Arizona, we have the Arizona Career Readiness Credential, ACRC, but there's also other credentials offered by other states, or like the ACT WorkKeys, for example. That's another example of those credentials that show that career readiness. They can also use CT credits, any type of workplace skill gains that they earn or that they learn by completing trainings or courses. Also, they can use credentials, industry recognized credentials, or diplomas are also one of the options to earn those points, or by using their prior work experience. It's important to mention that in both components, the academic readiness side and the career readiness side, they actually have to provide evidence that they have earned those points. It's either by providing their official transcript, whether it's from high school or college. They have to provide the actual credential or diploma that they earn, that we will verify that it's actually legitimate. If it's GED test or any type of IET courses that they completed, or enrollment in adult education, our office, Adult Education Services, has access to those systems. So that's how we're able to verify all this information. Next slide, please. What's the process? The state-funded adult education program facilitates this pathway. They work with the student, they guide them in the requirements of this pathway. They help them to gather all this evidence, and they conduct a pre-evaluation. Once they do this, they submit all this information to our office, to Adult Education Services, and a panel of a group of our teams meet, review all the documentation, and make a final determination whether an HSU diploma can be issued or not. Next slide, please. All right, the last thing, one of the things that we learned while implementing this pilot, any concerns we had about how rigorous this pathway was, we ended up noticing that a lot of the 8 people, the 8 participants who met the requirements of this pathway so far, are actually using some of the same sources that are available through the other approved pathways, which is the GED test and the college credits. So we believe it's very rigorous, while at the same time, they're also completing all these courses and trainings to earn those diplomas and certificates to either improve their skills or to join the workforce. Next slide. Our recommendation to the State Board of Education, it's to approve the Arizona HSE Plus Career Readiness Pathway as an alternative pathway for Arizona residents to earn a high school equivalency diploma. And with that said, no more hands. I think we're open for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? Member Kravickas. Member Kravickas, and then Dr. Clay.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. So I really appreciated the history. So I thank you very much. So I have a question and I'm kind of confused how to ask it. So they're no longer high school students. Are they adults? And the reason I'm asking is, so does IDEA apply or is it only ADA? How does all that work in accommodations and blah, blah, blah?
Thank you for your question. These are adult learners, so they are 16 years of age and older. They're withdrawn from school. And so this is a different pathway for them to get their high school equivalency. The bulk of our students in our adult education programs are 25 to 44 years of age. So they've got some experience, they have some work history, but they've reached a point in their lives where they need that high school equivalency diploma to move on. So these three pathways would give them the option of getting that goal that they have so that they can move on to post-secondary or increase their earnings and actually earn a family living wage.
So then I'm guessing IDEA does not apply and they
Doesn't.
just would have to get accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. This is provided, these services are provided through the Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act. It's Title II at the federal level, in addition to state funds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Clay, please go ahead.
Good morning, Dr. Hageman and Superintendent Horn and members of the board. Thank you so much for this presentation. Personally, I've been in education for a long time, and one of my biggest concerns have been those wonderful, amazing people who have lost hope in themselves. But I always believe that every one of us were born to do something, and we can't let our wonderful people who have lost hope or maybe have made a mistake or a situation have happened where they could not complete their diploma. Now they have even more hope. We have really, really good GED programs, especially with the community college, and I applaud them. But even that is hard for a certain demographics. So now this to me is inclusive. This to me is not one small demographics of our citizens. This is everybody. So I'm really excited to help promote this. I'm really excited about this program 100%. But I do have a question. With the CTE credits, if we have a young adult who took CTE classes in high school, will they be able to get the points if one, they took a whole year of CTE or the half semester? Because that's going to be one of your challenges, half semester or whole year. So could you answer that one for me? Then I have one more after that.
Yes, thank you for the question. So we know that some courses are offered by semester. So when we look at the transcript, we're actually looking for the whole year, for the full year to award that point, or those points, I should say.
Okay, great. I'm asking that because I know that I'm going to be asked that question. And the other question is, during high school, and again, during high school, and I'm a 25-year-old, and I wish, if I earned any certifications, it's career and technical education, it's really geared towards getting some sort of certification. So will any of my pieces of paper, my certifications that I earned while in high school, will that also be counted?
Thank you for the question again. So there's one of the options to earn points is by providing evidence of credential diplomas or certificates that people have earned. As long as we're able to verify the validity of that credential, we would honor that.
Thank you very much. I am very excited about this. Our citizens are going to be able to reach for the stars because once they get this diploma, then so many other opportunities will be open for them. So yes, I'm excited about this. Thank you very much. That concludes my questions.
Thank you, Dr. Clay. Any other questions? Yeah, please, Member Meyerson.
Again, echoing all of the board members' comments, thank you so much for the presentation. Can you talk to me a little bit about sort of the communication strategy around how to ensure that obviously once potentially this is approved, how to increase access into programs like this, and also especially in our most vulnerable populations where information might not be as readily accessible? All right.
Thank you for your question, Member Meyerson. Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn. We have a robust communication strategy preliminary put together. One of them is to be able to communicate really heavily with our programs, our adult education funded providers, and to provide training for them. Christian put together a really rigorous training course, and now he can refine it to market it to the students that are in our Title II programs. I think they're going to be really excited about this possibility. We have so many students that come to us with a lot of experience, and then they have some academic courses under their belt, but this will help round that out and provide a pathway for them to get that high school equivalency diploma that they so desperately want, and they come to us to receive.
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn. Oh, sorry. Member Meyerson, just to add a little bit of detail to your question. I don't know if you all mentioned this, but there were 8 folks in the pilot program. It was during the pandemic, but there are currently 22 pending. So they've already almost tripled the number of folks. So.
Member Clark, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. I just wanted to echo Member Kravikas's point. I'm sure you guys have heard of Sold a Story, and it's, you know, the podcast that's kind of taking everyone by storm related to reading and reading instruction. One of the things that I was thinking about that could be very valuable, my guess is you probably already do this, but if not, I wanted to bring it up, is that a lot of the students who are unable to finish their degrees tend to later in life realize, or maybe never realize, that they actually had a learning disability. And that was something that led to their dropping out. And I know that you said the majority of the students are 25 to 44 years of age. I just wondered if there's any conversation or any resources that are given to them, either at the beginning or somewhere through that process, that says, if you've ever suspected that you had a learning disability, these are the places that you could go to. This is how you could potentially get that evaluated or diagnosed. IDEA doesn't apply, but that's my biggest concern, is that sometimes unlocking that at any stage of life, which, you know, people that have listened to Sold a Story and these other things are going, oh my gosh, I never realized that I had undiagnosed, whatever it may be. And that's impacted my ability to hold a job, to finish high school. So is there anything right now that walks people through that process?
Excellent question, Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, Member Clark. You're talking to a former special education teacher in my former life. And so prior to being the DAS for adult education, I was the professional development director. And so we really focused on working with our partnerships with Title IV, which is our vocational rehabilitation services partner. They're required under the WIOA Title II. In fact, I just had a meeting with the executive director 2 weeks ago about some training, collaborative training we're going to be doing for teachers coming up. We also have been doing quite a bit of training on UDL, Universal Design for Learning, because we do have a lot of adults that come to us that say, I was kind of in special classes. I think I might have been getting help. I was struggling with reading or math or writing, and I had an extra teacher. They don't really understand that they were in special education classes, or maybe they weren't identified. But having teachers learn how to make training, their instruction accessible to all learners is a real benefit to all of the students, whether they have diagnosed or undiagnosed learning challenges. So we really focus heavily on that. So thank you for your question.
I have one more.
Please go ahead, Dr. Clay.
Just a strong recommendation to make sure this gets out. Please make an appointment to talk to the county superintendents in the state. We have meetings every quarter. We have a bigger landscape. County superintendents have a bigger landscape as far as education is concerned. And we are one of the main people that can get this out to the full county, permeate that from, border to border of our counties. So please, when you get a chance, let the county superintendents be the first ones on your list to give a presentation to, so we can form some strategies on how to get this information out into the state. Thank you.
Dr.
Thank
Core,
you, Dr. Clay.
Superintendent Horn, thank you so much, Dr. Clay. That's a wonderful recommendation. We'll follow up on that.
All right, before I call the question, I'll have a brief comment myself. I was on the board in 2018 when we began this journey of choice. And I'm keenly aware of a community college in Yuma that's just crushing it with the current college credit pathway. Because it has opened up pathways and it is about choice, and there's different ways to get to the same place and speak to the quality of life that everyone on this board is concerned about. So I'm super excited about yet another pathway, another choice that will be made available. And I think after you speak to the county superintendents, we want to make sure that you get in front of the community colleges in Arizona because they are valued partners in the existing choices and will be for this one too. So, but we'll get Dr. Clay and the soups first. We'll let them go first. So with that, do I have a motion that the board approve and adopt the Arizona High School Equivalency Plus Career Readiness Pathway as an alternative pathway for Arizona residents to earn an Arizona High School Equivalency Diploma? Do I have such a motion?
So
Member
moved.
Morrison, thank you. Who was second there? And Dr. Clay, we're gonna slot you in as second, if that's okay. Thank you very much. Any other comments? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes as presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Going to move us on to 5C, presentation and discussion of the Arizona Education and Career Action Plans ECAP program. Director Ross.
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. We have Emily Brown from the Arizona Department of Education here to present on the ECAP program and some recently exciting news in the budget.
Please,
Good
Emily.
morning, Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, and the members of the board. I'm Emily Brown. I'm the school counselor director at the Arizona Department of Education, and I'm here today to discuss ECAP. So I'll be defining the education and career action plans. I'll show you the alignment between education, career action plans, and student plans, as well as providing some resources to support educators throughout this process. So the first area that we're going to discuss today is what is an ECAP. An ECAP is an education and career action plan. This is a requirement for all high school students in the state of Arizona beginning in 9th grade. So we want every student in Arizona to have a plan for success for after high school. And this is an ongoing process where the students are working with their parents or guardians, their school staff, such as their teachers, their administrators, their school counselors, their school social workers, their coaches. Everyone should be involved in this process. And throughout this process of planning for their future, they create a portfolio that's going to contain documents that align with their career goals. So the ECAP is comprised of 4 attributes. The first attribute is the academic. The academic area is going to show how the students have planned their coursework for high school, as well as any awards or academic achievements that they've earned throughout high school. They'll have that documented in their portfolio. The next attribute is the career section. And this section of the ECAP is where the students have a defined career goal. We want our students taking career interest assessments so they can determine a goal that aligns with what they're interested in. And then they can align the courses in high school to this career goal. We really want students exploring the opportunities out there for them as far as careers. The next section of the ECAP is post-secondary. And this is where students are exploring post-secondary options after high school. They can explore the financial aid opportunities, as well as the application or entrance requirements for these post-secondary education institutions. And finally, we have the extracurricular attribute. And in this section, it's where students are documenting that they're participating in clubs and sports, work, community service, as well as the fine arts. And we know how important these extra activities are in improving not just their lives in high school, but their lives after high school. All right, so moving on to student plans. So with ECAPS, we want to have plans for their future. And this includes having middle school students plan out the 4 years of high school. So while ECAPS are not currently required in middle school, we're really encouraging our middle schools to start encouraging students to have a plan for high school. That way, they get to high school, they know what classes and activities and work experiences are going to align with their defined career goal. So our middle school students are seeing the big picture. How are the classes that they're taking in high school going to have a positive impact on their future plans? And so we really want students taking advantage of every opportunity that is there in high school, such as career and technical education classes and sports. And we really want our students having that 4 years thought out before they get to high school so they can take advantage of all those wonderful opportunities. So our ECAPs really complement and support other student plans. So students that are on IEPs or individual education programs have a transition plan that's put in place by the student's 16th birthday. And part of this transition plan is having the students have a well-defined goal and action steps to take those goals. And so the ECAP really aligns with that and helps support the students with that. With the students taking an age-appropriate assessment and having those measurable goals, the ECAP activities really support and align with that. So we want to make sure that the people within the school system are all on the same page with ECAPs, that it's not just the counselors, we have the special education staff, we have the teachers, we have coaches, and we have the career and technical education teachers all working together to support with these plans. And the students that take the career and technical education classes also have programs of study, and those go right along with ECAPs as well. But it's important to note that our education and career action plans are not replacing these other programs. This is not instead of a transition plan or a program of study, it's in addition to. We're just providing that extra layer of support for students so they can find success after high school. So every year, schools have to upload 2 documents into a system called EMAC, and this is through ADE Connect. So each school is required to submit the first plan, which is an implementation action plan. And this is going to show us how the ECAPs are done school-wide. Are the schools providing classroom lessons, career fairs, college fairs, financial aid nights, dual enrollment nights? What activities are being provided to all students throughout the school year, as well as the parents? We really want to ensure that the parents and guardians are involved and active in this planning process. So every school has to submit this plan showing us that all students in their school, grades 9 through 12, are receiving career and college readiness activities. The second document that we require at ADE to ensure that ECAPs are being done with fidelity is that we require each school to submit one student portfolio. So this student portfolio is going to show us all the documents and archives that the student's been putting together related to their career and post-secondary goals. And we want to make sure that the schools have all the course planning information, a copy of the student's resume, any application or anything like that that goes with the education and career action plan. All those documents are put together in our portfolio and submitted without any student information in order to be FERPA compliant. So with those 2 plans, ADE is able to determine whether or not the schools are compliant with their ECAPs. We want to stress to the schools how important these plans are, because we really want every student to find success after high school. And finally, I'm going to show you some of our resources that we have from the Arizona Department of Education that helps support educators with the ECAP process. So in 2021, the Career and Technical Education Unit at the Arizona Department of Education purchased My Future AZ, and this is a career and college exploration platform that's managed by Pipeline AZ. So with our partnership, we are able to provide this platform, which is free for students in grades 6 through 12, as well as their parents and guardians to support with the ECAP activities. So they can keep all their documents and store their portfolio online on this platform, as well as participate in activities such as the career interest assessment. We can create their resumes. We have lots of wonderful, engaging activities on this platform that students and their parents can use to support with the ECAP process. We also have an entire website on the ADE webpage that is dedicated to ECAP resources. We offer 3 virtual trainings a month for My Future AZ users. So ADE partners with Pipeline AZ to provide that support to our users, as well as that ECAP training throughout. It's embedded in our trainings. We also offer in-person trainings to schools and districts to support with the My Future AZ implementation as well. We have some guidance documents for those educators that want to know how to upload their ECAPs, what the ECAP should look like. We have some sample templates for them to use, as well as the state board rule that was passed in 2008. So here is my contact information. I will open it up to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. I should note this was, there's no vote today. This was for information, but certainly while we have Emily here, does any member of the board have a question or comment they'd like to make? Oh, please. Yeah. Member Myerson, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. Couple questions, actually. Can you tell me a little bit about parent involvement in the creation of the ECAP? Yes. Question 1. Can you tell me about the parent?
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, and the members of the board, we encourage schools to provide activities with the parents. This might look like this parents using the online platform, My Future AZ, and having an electronic signature to show that they've reviewed and read through the students' documents and all their plans for their future. We also encourage schools to hold events with parents, parent-teacher conferences, and open up to community events such as college and career nights, financial aid nights, dual enrollment nights, where they're inviting the parents to come into their campus to learn more about future planning opportunities.
Thank you. And maybe one more for right now. When you think about sort of an LEA, a district or an individual school that's utilizing the ECAP like extremely well, what does that look like in terms of how that impacts student success post high school?
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, and the members of the board, while we don't currently have a lot of data to support students' plans for after high school, we do have examples of exemplary ECAP plans, and it really looks like college and career readiness is embedded in all aspects of the student's educational process. So they're starting that planning process as young as elementary school with college and career fairs, teaching the students about different options career-wise and financial aid-wise, and really embedding that into all aspects of school throughout their experience in K-12 education. Pipeline AZ has partnered with the Maricopa County Community Colleges. And so for those students that are using My Future AZ, if they indicate that their future plan or goal is to attend a 2-year university or community college, we partnered with Maricopa County Community Colleges to match that student with an academic advisor. So if they indicate they want to go to the community college, they'll be paired with an academic advisor. And with My Future AZ, we have specific action steps that those students can take to reach those goals. My Future AZ does not stop once the student graduates from high school. So unlike many paid platforms that the student doesn't have access to after they graduate, our platform stays with the student throughout their adulthood. So we're going to start tracking to see what the students indicate as their career plans and their college and post-secondary plans, and try to track those action steps to see when that student indicates a 2-year degree as their goal. We'll work with Maricopa County Community Colleges to see if they're actually taking steps and attending that 2-year college. And we are hoping to expand that to other colleges and universities in the future.
That was actually going to be exactly my follow-up of like, can we figure out how to, if a student says they want to, you know, where they want to go, can we track to see if they've actually done that? Do you have a sense of, and then we'd be able to identify or better look at then the action steps of how we supported that student throughout high school, obviously. When do we think that data will be available?
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, and the members of the board, we're hoping to start having that data ready at the end of the next school year. So in 2024, this time next year, where we can start to see if the students are actually going to where they say they want to go, and reflect if there's any additional activities or support that we can provide to help ensure that the students are reaching their desired goals.
So maybe just one final comment on my end, and then I'm done.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, super helpful to sort of hear from. So again, just thank you so much for the. I'm really excited to see that data. I think it would be really helpful to hear from high school principals of you know, what certainly the resources that are provided by the department, but also do they see this tool as being sort of a real linchpin in supporting kids throughout certainly high school, but then ensuring that what happens after high school is actually happening. So I don't know, Executive Director Ross, if that's something as we continue learning more and more about ECAPS, but I would love to hear from the principals themselves on how this process is and how they feel like this is what's setting up kids for success.
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, Member Meyerson, absolutely. So this is this presentation is actually part of that track we've discussed about college matriculation and attainment that started with the FAFSA presentation. And then Dr. Clay had talked about an ECAP presentation, and that's a very natural next step. So we can work on that for a future meeting.
Member Haley?
Thank you so much for this presentation. It is really helpful. I know Dr. Clay has talked a lot about ECAP and its benefit to students in Cochise County. Question for those students that are pursuing, say, a workforce agenda, particularly maybe in the skilled trades or otherwise, where they might not need a 2-year or 4-year degree. How are you thinking about supporting students that pursue that type of career?
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, and the members of the board, we have worked with Pipeline AZ to create pathways within careers. It's not just for students that want to go to a 4-year or a 2-year college. Each career has a designated pathway that might look like earning a certificate or attending a 1-year program. And all that information that we have in our platform is Arizona specific. So all of that is included and really encouraged for students. They have a lot of different options that they can choose from, and we want to ensure that they're seeing every option that's out there. So we're really excited to offer a healthcare hub. So we've worked really closely with Pima County to have a space for students interested in anything healthcare and medical science related, so they can see the different paths. And we are testing that out. That will come out this summer. And then we're hoping that with the success of that, then we'll be able to expand it to other areas in the workforce as well. But that's definitely something that we are prioritizing. We really want our students to see all the different options out there and not just one or the other.
That's great.
Thank you.
Just to toot Dr. Kaur's horn, with the AWC's recent launch of the Entrepreneurial College, all of their healthcare programs are located on Yuma Regional Medical Campus. And so they have, as Dr. Kaur said, on multiple occasions, they're rocking it when it comes to dual enrollment. So being able to think about all of our community colleges throughout the state and just how many of them, certainly AWC, but I know Pima Community College Network, as well as Maricopa County with MCOR, a number of our community colleges are really starting to think how to be nimble, how to be responsive, how to create those stackable credentials to ensure kids are on the right track are able to get high paying jobs, perhaps right out of high school. A few other things just to note: Elevate Ed AZ, which is part of the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce. They've done a lot of strategic partnerships with industry in the broader Phoenix Valley area. And that might be interesting to kind of think through, how is industry part of this and as part of the platform. So anyway, thank you so much.
And I was going to shamelessly plug AWC, and my friend and colleague has done it for me. So very good. Thank you. Dr. Clay. Member Kravickas, you'll be next. Dr. Clay, you have a question?
No, I have a comment.
Please go ahead.
And I'm speaking as a teacher and a principal and the CT director using the ECAP. First of all, what ECAP is helping our students grow, learn and grow and help themselves evolve. ECAP helps with the why of education. A lot of students are just going to school because their parents tell them to go, okay? Or a lot of students, when they pick an occupation, it's because something was on TV or it's what they think they feel, okay? What ECAP does is have the student at the 9th grade, really 7th grade, 9th grade level, start looking at the why. What are my natural attributes? What do I do naturally? How does that connect with my environment? Well, how does it connect with my community, with my state, even with the nation? Looking at the BLS website, which is a Bureau of Labor website, our kids are learning how to go to that website, look at the 5-year forecast and say, wait a minute, I thought I wanted to do this, but they don't need me in 5 years. Let me go ahead and look at a feeder MOS. I'm thinking military now. A feeder job. Our kids need to look at what they're doing every year and evolve. So what the ECAP does is they start off in the 9th grade. They think they know what they're doing. They're going to fill everything out. And then as they grow and learn, wait a minute, I don't think I want to be a pharmacist. I want to be a nurse now. Okay, I've had a student, she thought she wanted to be a pharmacist from the 9th to the 10th grade, but as she evolved in her CTE, she said, wait a minute, I want to be a nurse. So let's go ahead and do CNA. And when my husband got really sick and we went into the hospital, to see that student, one of my students say, Miss Clay, I got him. Okay, and she wheeled him in. All right, so, and it is not about it, going to college or going to the workforce. It's about the whole thing. Okay, ECAP gives you the direction. Should I do this? And the parents are involved. Parents should be signing off on an ECAP twice a year. The counselors are signing off twice a year. This is not a turnkey thing. But my concern is it has become a turnkey thing because it's an unfunded mandate. Now we're speaking from an educator, principal point of view. How and when are we going to do this? The way we did it in my school, we had career exploration and future focus classes that were in the 9th grade that they had to take for graduation before they went into any CTE class, because they did all of the interest in inventories. The teachers, the CTE teachers that taught that class were talking to other CTE teachers and saying, hey, these kids should go into the medical track. Wait, these kids should go into construction. These kids, based on what they were offering in schools or getting with the community colleges or getting with the businesses. So don't compartmentalize it as saying business, parent. It's everybody looking at this document, and the student is the center of attention, but the student is doing the inflection. But again, it's unfunded. And I would say, if you are just allowing the schools to pick a record, when I was a principal, when we were monitored, it was Miss K, I forgot, Miss K Shriver, she was in charge at that time. When Miss K came down, she picked 10 records. We didn't get a choice. She picked 10 records out of each grade. So you couldn't mess with the records. And she looked at the growth. She looked at the comments. She looked at kids changing their mind. She looked at all these different things. to make sure we were doing what we were supposed to do. So I'm going to say that if it's unfunded, if we are not giving the schools the venue to do this, then we're losing the why of why a student is in school. Kids need to know the why, and parents don't need to shove it down their throat what the why is. They need to have room in a class where they can manipulate, play with, get into. Wait a minute, I don't like that. I think I like it. I told the story, and I'm sorry if I'm taking a lot of time, but this is so important. I always like to tell the story about when I was a principal. I had a student who thought he wanted to be sports medicine, and he was in the 9th grade. And all through the 9th grade, he was giving me problems as a principal. He was always coming in my office, not doing the work because he doesn't do feet. He didn't want to touch anybody's feet. He said, we're not doing it. So we changed him in the 10th grade to be a mechanic in auto. He didn't want to be, he then found out auto was dirty. I don't want to get my nails wet and I'm just too pretty for that. I'm not doing that either. Okay. Then at the end of 10th grade, what happened? He's in financial services. While he was in the 11th grade, Wells Fargo hired him to be a teller or to start training him. Okay. So ECAP is you are also connecting with the community. Okay, my daughter was in the 10th grade a CNA, and now she is a PA now. All right, this is what ECAP does. It's not a hit or miss, and it's very, 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 very proactive. So you're gonna listen, you're gonna hear about the My Futures, AZ, and all these other things. We need to really be purposeful in this. And somebody else on the board asked, well, what about the parents? I know in Cochise County, as a county superintendent, My Futures AZ is on our website. We're asking the parents, go and play with it with your kids. Get an account. If they get the account before the school actually works with it, at least when the school starts, the kid will have an account. That account is transferable all around the state of Arizona, and we need to share that information with our community colleges, share that information with HVAC, share that. These are all the things we need to do. So yes, you're going to hear a lot about this. It does work. I just don't like us doing things, throwing it against the wall and hoping that it sticks.
Thank you, Dr. Clay.
Okay. You are welcome.
Member Kervikis.
Thank you. Hi, Emily. I actually just completed a national research project on this topic because pretty much every state has one, ILPs, ICAPs, all call different things. And really every state has struggled with how do we get to Member Clay's comment, how do we get schools to think about it as more than just a compliance activity? So I would also want to just point out to you, Rhode Island actually has a dashboard that they publish. And part of it was also to track equity things. So they disaggregate it by subgroups. So they can actually see how many of, I think they're called ILPs, are completed. And so it's an interesting idea to think about. And I was wondering, I looked on the website now, it's very possible I could not find it, but do you have specific guidance on IEPs and ECAPs? Because again, nationally, that's also been a really big struggle. In fact, I know of one state that is specifically in statute even said that if you have an IEP, you don't need an ECAP. So I think the struggle is that they see them as duplicative. Like one state I saw actually had what they called a matrix to, like, if it's here, just copy and paste it there. And I'm like, that just furthers the idea that it's duplicative rather than really helping them envision how it's different and why it's important, why they should want to do it rather than copy and paste from this section and put it over here. Do you have guidance, or have you had conversations with ESS? Or this may actually be, can I think about this may be a good thing for the CEAP to discuss as well.
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, and the members of the board, I do spend 20% of my time working in the ESS unit, which is the Exceptional Student Services unit at the Arizona Department of Education. I'm not 100% in career and technical education for that reason. So we can work together to create support systems within our state, working together with our vocational rehab services, our pre-ETS providers, as well as working with our LEAs to ensure that they know the different requirements and roles that are being provided for support for students on IEPs. We really feel that it's necessary that students have their transition plan and an ECAP in Arizona, because we feel that those students require that additional level of support. And the components are a little bit different as far as transition plans and ECAPs go. We really encourage our educators to work together in creating those plans and not having them be a copy and paste or repetitive activities. We really want them to be new activities and different every year. We really want this to be a journey for those students. That includes general ed staff, special ed staff, school counselors. We really want everybody to be included to ensure that they have the appropriate level of success. And we are working with ESS as we're developing My Future AZ to ensure that not only is our platform accessible, but are those activities appropriate for students on IEPs as well. We want to ensure that our activities are accessible and informational and engaging for all students across Arizona.
Thank you for that answer. Do we have sample ECAPs for students with IEPs or guidance? Again, it may be there and I didn't find it. Do we have those documents? Are they in the works? Again, I think this might be a good issue for CEAP to weigh in on as well.
Thank you for the question. We currently do not have samples of students that are on an IEP. The samples that we provide are just generic general education students, but we can definitely collect that and remove any identifying school information and student information, and also place that on our website as well to ensure that those special education educators have what they need to be successful with ECAP implementation. Thank you.
And it may also be something for RSK, Raising Special Kids, to make sure that they're building an ECAP into their transition training, because I just did it and I don't think it was there, but I could be wrong. Thank you for bringing this whole thing up, because what's interesting to me, even nationally, is we're talking about these ECAPs as kind of something new over the past 10 years. But as you indicated, the precursor was the transition plan. We've been doing transition IEPs for decades in this country. And there's lots of lessons to be learned. And I think a potential future topic for our board is what is it? Because we track post-school outcomes, to Member Meyerson's question. We have lessons to be learned, things that we've done well, things we need to do better, that I think carry over into ECAP so we don't make the same mistakes twice. And finally, one of the things I realized in my research was that 23 states have lowered the age to 14. So federal law requires 16. 23 states have lowered it to 14. 2 states have lowered it to 12. And the main reason they did it was to align with these types of programs. And also, you mentioned pre-ETs. Pre-ET starts at 14. And so I'd like to explore that issue. And some states have done it through state board rule, because it doesn't really make sense that we're telling ninth graders do an ECAP, but if you have an IEP, this doesn't start till junior year. Oh, and by the way, go get VR, but you're not going to start this till 16. So there's a really a big misalignment there.
Any other thoughts or questions, Member Clark?
Yeah, I just had a really quick question. It looks like you can create an account on My Future AZ if you are a homeschooler. Is that correct? Awesome. I love that. Would there be any way to add into the school section like empowerment scholarship account students? Because ESA students are not actually homeschoolers. They're they're technically ESA educating families because they're under contract with the department. Because now that the ESA program has grown so much, I think that you would probably find a lot of those families would be really interested in either finding a way, if they've left the system, to make sure they're holding on to their ECAP, or starting one for sure, on their own for their own kids. I would love to do this for my ESA kids.
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, and members of the board. This summer, we are working with Pipeline AZ to update our school list. And so that will be one of the additions that we are making and that we're excited to make. As I believe Dr. Clay had stated, that the accounts with My Future AZ follow them from school to school. So if the students withdraw or they transfer, we're able to keep that account on our end and just move them over so they're paired with the educators at the next school that they attend. This does follow them to community colleges as well as throughout adulthood. So it's awesome to have that feedback and know that you all are in support of adding that to our list. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Any last questions? No? Well, thank you very much. I'll move us on to 5D, presentation, discussion, and possible action to close rulemaking procedures for AAC R7-2-602.02, the Arizona Teacher Leader Professional Standards. Executive Director Ross.
Dr. Core, President Horn, Superintendent Horn, and members of the board. To present this item is our Policy Director, Federico Llanes.
Thank you. President Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, we are looking over R7-2-60202, the Teacher Leader Professional Standards. These were brought about after we adopted the Teacher Leader Induction Standards in 2021. ADE found a need to define teacher leadership, their roles and strategies for developing teacher leaders. We are up for closure today. We've held our public hearing. We have not received any public comment, and I'm available for any questions. We also love to have Bruce up here too. He did all the work on these standards. So if you guys have any questions for ADA as well, he's here.
Bruce keeps trying to escape, but we bring him right back. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from members of the board? All right. Then do I have a motion that the board adopt the submitted draft of the rule and close rulemaking procedures for AAC R7-2-602.02 Arizona Teacher Leader Professional Standards? Do I have such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Was that member Ketnes or Dr. Hagerman?
It was Dr. Hagerman.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second? I see member Ketnes as a second. Thank you very much. Any discussion before I call the vote? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I will move us on to 5E, presentation, discussion, and possible action to close rulemaking procedures for R7-2-902, independent accounting responsibility. Executive Director Ross.
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, this item will again be presented by Federico Llanes.
Right. Thank you again. President Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, we have our rulemaking package for independent accounting responsibility. This is conforming changes to legislation that was passed in 2022. It was HB 2179. This rule includes some changes from statute changes over the course of a better part of 20 years, which is recently, I think it was 1988 that we had recently changed those rules. This rule requires the county treasurer's office to approve or deny all the schools that are filing for independent accounting responsibility before they even reach the board. And it also requires schools to file their accounting responsibility plan with the Department of Education and the county superintendent.
Does any member of the board have any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion that the board adopt the submitted draft of the rule and close rulemaking procedures for AAC R7-2-902 independent accounting responsibility? Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Member Clark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Member Haley, thank you. With the first and second, any discussion? Before I call the vote, in fact, I will call the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Rico, I just think we let you off the hook every time. We're gonna have to grill you one of these times. Just not today. Then I will move us on to 5F, presentation and discussion regarding legislative affairs. The board may take action to support, oppose, or remain neutral on specific legislative proposals. Executive Director Ross.
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, this item will be led by Deputy Wonders.
Thank you, Director Ross. President Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. And exciting news from our last legislative update. We do have a budget. And maybe less exciting news, we're still in session. So the legislature 2 weeks ago came in and ran a budget through pretty quickly. Want to provide just a kind of quick highlight about the budget, especially things related to K-12 education. For kind of this whole session, the revenue projections have primarily been in the one-time revenue spending. So most of these changes are one-time allocations. Some of them are non-lapsing, allowing for the continuation of those funds to be used past the next fiscal year. But there's very few ongoing changes just due to that revenue outlook. For the ongoing changes, and all of these are going to be changes to the baseline. So for example, there was an additional 20 million allocated for district additional assistance. That's in addition to the 23 million that was already in the baseline. So we'll just be covering the new changes from this year's budget. For ongoing changes, really the primary one was the elimination of results-based funding and transfer of that into the base level. Effectively, that's a $69 million kind of reallocation of funds in the ongoing category. It adds about 0.9% increase to the base, and that's on top of the 2% inflationary adjustment. For the one-time funding changes, I'm not going to go through everything. I'll just highlight kind of the bigger pieces that may impact the board or at least have out there for awareness. The Department of Administration received a $15 million one-time allocation for the K-12 Alternative Transportation Grant Program. This program has continued over the past couple of years and is run through ADOA, providing grants for innovative transportation. District, and I think charters are included in that. There was a $2 million allocation for the school finance transparency portal project at ADOA. And then the school facilities division is over at ADOA, and they had a $183 million increase for the building renewal grants, so providing repair work for schools, as well as about $42 million for land acquisition costs for new school construction. There was a reconfiguration of some of the existing projects. So the Sawarita had been up for new school, and that was eliminated due to their enrollment projections going down. And then there was a reduction in scope for Marana's school construction. For ADE's budget, there was a $300 million one-time allocation for state aid supplemental funding that goes to districts and charters. There was a $15.5 million program for dual enrollment funding. So it provides reimbursement for the students. And then there's also a component that provides incentives for educators to kind of get certified and enter that dual enrollment space. $5 million for the Education Career and Action Plans, ECAPs, that we just heard about. The directive is for the department to contract with a provider that provides kind of the career mapping tool as well as the training piece. There was $5 million for broadband funding to the department. $10 million non-lapsing appropriation to the Department for Administrative Funding increases, a $10 million appropriation to the Department for Consumable Art and Music Supply Grant Program. So it's providing $1,000 grants for public school art teachers and preschool through third grade educators as well. There was a $800,000 one-time appropriation for the Alternative Teacher Development Program. That's Teach for America's contract. And then there was about a little over $200,000 for county jail education programs for a couple of various components of that. $3 million appropriation for a teacher professional development and support personnel pilot program. This is providing grants to districts that have a higher percentage of educators who are new to the profession. There's a part of the funding formula that provides extra funding for more veteran districts. This is kind of addressing the other side of that formula. And it's for PD opportunities. And then there was some funding allocated to the department to conduct a transportation formula study. And then on the policy change side, just for board members' awareness as well. So in addition to the kind of dollars bill, there's the bills that provide the statutory changes and policy changes that accompany the budget. There was a direction for the department to provide a quarterly ESA report to the governor, legislature, and the budget offices. There was a some session law language allowing the department to use money from the Failing Schools Tutoring Fund to provide school improvement activities for the field, as well as the ability for AD to use some money for Azella costs. And the one thing that I will note, in addition to these budget packages as well, is the House did form an ad hoc committee on empowerment scholarship accounts. So using that quarterly report, the House will be doing a study committee over the interim. It has yet to be appointed at this point. So that's kind of the budget package. In terms of the timing of where we are in session, so the legislature adjourned, they came in and worked Monday, passed a bunch of bills through, and then took a month-long adjournment. They'll be back June 12th for additional action. In that spat of bills that went up to the governor's office, there was one that we had been tracking, House Bill 2539, that was vetoed. It was a bill that originally had placed some duties within the board for providing notices to schools that received D or Fs, creating a school choice division. It was amended throughout the process, and most of those responsibilities were transferred over to the department, and some of it had come out, but that bill was vetoed, so will not go into law. I think that'll kind of conclude. We're not recommending the board vote on any particular recommendations, but happy to answer any questions about where we are or any of the budget components.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments or concerns from any member of the board? Superintendent Horn, please.
In talking with very wide sectors of people who work in education, principals, superintendents, teachers, the one consistent comment I get is that the legislature needs to repeal the provision that students in grades K through 2, I think it is, cannot be suspended. Young children can be very disruptive. They can throw chairs. They can make it impossible for other students to learn. And it's the most consistent message I've gotten. So, we're going to work on it at the department, but I get a chance to say something publicly. So if people can talk to their legislators, that seems to be one way to very much improve both the quality of education for young children, but also the quality of the teacher's life, because it's very difficult to deal with a very disruptive student and be unable to do anything about it.
Any other questions or comments? Aaron, thank you very much. I know it's been as always, a flurry of activity to close that budget, and I appreciate you keeping us all in the loop.
Thank you.
Nicely done. I'm going to move us on to item 6. This is the call to the public. This is the time for comment on items on the consent portion of the enforcement actions. Once again, to be consistent, all speakers will be limited to 2 minutes. Executive Director Ross, have we received any requests to speak?
President Corr, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, there are no requests to speak at this time.
Okay, then I will move us on to item number 7. This is the consent agenda for certification enforcement actions. If there is a desire from any board member to remove any of these items from the consent agenda, please indicate that, and I'll be happy to do so. Otherwise, I would ask that we take this as a single motion. Does anyone need anything removed from? Okay, hearing and seeing none. I will then again ask the consent agenda for enforcement actions to be taken in a single motion. Do I have a motion to approve items 7A1 through 7A8, 7B1 through 7B2, and 7C1 through 7C2? Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Member Clark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Member Haley, thank you. Any comments or discussion before I call the vote on this item? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda for enforcement actions as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. I will then move us on to item 8. Once again, call to the public. This is the time to comment on items on the general session portion of the enforcement actions. To be consistent, all speakers will be limited to 2 minutes. Executive Director Ross, have we received any requests to speak?
President Corr, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, we do have 3 requests to speak. First is Renee Osipov, followed by Calvin Ellaby Jr., and then Crystal Reyes.
Thank you. All virtually, correct?
Yes, they've each registered virtually.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, and members of the board. I am attorney Renee Ozapov, and I represent Calvin Ellaby Jr. Mr. Ellaby Jr. was before the Professional Practices Advisory Committee, the PPAC, on March 16th of this year. The PPAC's decision was that Mr. Ellaby Jr.'s teaching license be suspended for 3 years and prohibiting him from submitting an application for his principal's certification for 3 years. While Mr. Ellaby Jr. understands the PPAC's decision regarding his application for his principal certificate, we ask the board to amend the PPAC's decision regarding Mr. Ellaby Jr.'s teaching certificate. And we ask the board to find a letter of censure more appropriate. The board is responsible for imposing such discipline action, including insurance of letter of censure, suspension, with conditions, revocations of a certificate upon a finding of immoral or professional conduct. Pursuant to ARS 15-203-A14 and 15-203-A20. The board's rules provide that a certificate holder who violates the provisions of AAC R7-2-1308 are deemed to be engaged in immoral or unprofessional conduct and may impose discipline by the board. Mr. Ellaby has been an educator for 14 years and is currently employed with the Santa Cruz Valley Union High School District in Eloy, Arizona. Prior to the allegations listed on the initial complaint, Mr. Ellaby Jr. has never been written up, suspended, or faced any disciplinary action. While you'll hear from Mr. Ellaby himself regarding his remorse for his actions, specifically an unapproved fundraiser, we would like to note that the evidence presented during the PPAC hearing were never under his capacity as a teacher in the classroom. So we just ask for you to amend the PPAC's decision regarding his teaching certificate and find a letter of censure more appropriate for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Up next, we have Calvin Ellaby Jr.
Good morning, Chairman Kaur and Superintendent Horn. My name is Calvin Ellaby. I ask that you not suspend my teaching license. In addition, I believe a reprimand or censure is appropriate and that I be not allowed to apply for a principal license for a period of 2 years. I am 61 years old and have been teaching for the past 14 years. The last 6 of those years have been here in the state of Arizona. I hold a lifetime professional educator license from Wisconsin and a regular teaching license from Arizona. I am employed as social studies teacher at Santa Cruz Valley Union High School in Eloy, where I just completed my principal internship under the supervision of Dr. Karen Blair at NAU and Superintendent Principal Christopher Reyes. On May 12th of this year, I graduated from Northern Arizona University with my Master's in Educational Leadership, Principal K through 12, and it cost me every dollar of the $18,000 that I had in my teacher 401(k)(403) retirement account. I am here today to apologize for conducting and engaging in an air freshener fundraiser while I was serving as assistant principal and athletic director at Bobby Keevee High School during the 21-22 school year. I did not have an athletic department budget, nor were there any athletic boosters on the nation. I thought and believed in error that I could conduct a fundraiser under my individual name and separate from the school. The sole beneficiary of the fundraiser was the student athletes. The purpose was to ensure that these students had money to purchase food after away games. I received no direct benefit or indirect benefit from the fundraiser. None of the funds were ever commingled with my own funds. Every dollar raised and spent was recorded and every receipt was given to the school on March 23rd when I would first act for an accounting. Again, I have never faced any disciplinary actions since I have been teaching. I ask that you not suspend my teacher's license. I ask that you give me a reprimand and prohibit me from applying for a principal certificate for a period of 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kaur, Superintendent Horn, members of the board. Up next, we have Crystal Reyes.
Executive Director Ross, Crystal Reyes has not joined the meeting virtually.
Dr. Core, that concludes this call to the public.
Thank you, Executive Director Ross. We'll move us on to item 9. This is the general session certification of enforcement actions, the negotiated settlement agreements. So once again, unless there is a desire to pull one of these 4 cases out separately, I would ask that we take them in a single motion. Is there a desire from any member of the board to separate any one of these cases? Okay, hearing and seeing none, then do I have a motion to approve items 9A1 through 9A4?
So moved.
Thank you, Member Clark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Haley. Any conversation or discussion before I call the vote? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the negotiated settlements 9A1 through 9A4, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I'll move us on to 9B. This is presentation, discussion, and possible action on findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendations of the Professional Practices Advisory Committee to revoke the certificates of Holly Craft, case number C 2021-000233. Do I have a motion to adopt the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendations of the PPAC to revoke the teaching certificates of Holly Craft and that all states and territories be so notified? Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Member
Dr.
Hagerman.
Hagerman.
Dr. Hagerman, thank you. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Thank you, Member Haley. Any discussion or conversation? Or I call the vote, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of approving item 9B as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. I will move us on to 9C, which is the presentation, discussion, and possible action on the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and recommendations of the Professional Practices Advisory Committee to revoke the certificates of Russell Harris, case number C 2021-012438. Do I have a motion to adopt the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and recommendations of the PPAC to revoke the teaching certificates of Russell Dean Harris for a period of 5 years and that all states and territories be so notified? Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Hagerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Clark. Any discussion? Okay, then I will call the vote. All those in favor of approving item 9C as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We'll move us on to 9D. Presentation, discussion, and possible action on the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and recommendations of the Professional Practices Advisory Committee to suspend the teaching certificate of Robert Holland, case number C 2022-00137 for a period of 1 year. Do I have a motion to adopt the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and recommendations of the PPAC to suspend the teaching certificates of Robert Holland for a period of 1 year with the condition of successful completion of a board-approved ethics course and that all states and territories be so notified? Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Clay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Hagerman. Any discussion or conversation before I call the vote? Okay, all those in favor of approving item 9D as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I will move us on to 9E. presentation and discussion of the possible action on the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and recommendation of the Professional Practices Advisory Committee to deny the application for certification and suspension of certification for Calvin Ellaby Jr., case number C 2022-000773 and C 2022-002754R for a period of 3 years. Do I have a motion to adopt the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and the recommendations of the PPAC to deny the application for certification of Calvin Ellaby Jr. for a period of 3 years and suspend any and all certificates held by Calvin Ellaby Jr. for a period of 3 years, and that all states and territories be so notified? Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Member Clark, do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Hagerman, any conversation or discussion? Then I will call the vote. All those in favor of approving item 9E as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I'll move us on to 9F. Presentation and discussion and possible action on the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and recommendations of the Professional Practices Advisory Committee to revoke the certificates of Stacy Patullo, case number C 2021-013127. Do I have a motion to adopt the findings of fact, conclusion of law, and the recommendations of the PPAC to revoke any and all teaching certificates held by Stacy Patullo, and that all states and territories be so notified? Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Member Clark, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Member Haley, thank you. Any conversation or discussion before I call the vote? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of approving item 9F as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And now I will move us on to item 10, which is simply summary of current events and any good of the order from members of the board. I believe our next regular meeting is Monday, June 26th. And with that, Director Ross, do you have anything to add?
Dr. Core, Superintendent Horn, members of the board, just quickly, we have a meeting in June on June 26th at 9 o'clock. There is no board meeting in July. And then our meeting after that will be our meeting/retreat in August. It's the 28th and 29th. And it is being kindly hosted by Arizona Western College in Yuma. And then I just wanted to take a second to thank our presenters today. As somebody who has presented before the board many, many times over the years, and especially with the dais, it can be very nerve-wracking. We had a lot of folks who presented today for the first time, and I just thought they did a really great job. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the folks who presented.
Agreed. Very much agreed. Any member of the board, anything to share before I adjourn us? We're doing okay. I'm going to call this meeting to a close at 11:15. How about that? And also with this new setup, they've given me a